So I think the first thing I want to talk about is kind of a bizarre and touchy subject, and that is pedophilia. Why not start with the bang? So clearly, I guess not clearly, I haven't said shit about it yet. I am not a fan of pedophilia. I don't think it's good or awesome. I think it's in fact bad and like destructive. There was a thing in the news recently involving former, I believe, light heavyweight champion Cain Velasquez. And the way that I encountered this story is my the eldest of the children that lives with me is a big fan of MMA and was like, "Hey, Dad, Cain Velasquez just got arrested for like killing a guy or something." And I was like, "Ooh, that's not good." And then I found out more about the story. And as I understand it right now, Cain Velasquez shot a guy who he suspects or knows, I'm not sure which, to be a child molester. And the reaction that everyone seems to have is that child molesters should be killed, murdered, deadified immediately, and it's just a net positive to the world. And I think I totally get why people feel that way. I will never be like, no, child molesters are people too, and maybe we need to consider them as part of the LGBTQ rainbow. No. Pedophilia is garbage. It is not something that we can allow or encourage. It should be always rooted out wherever possible because that's the fucking wild, wild world. But I don't think that having people randomly shooting each other in the street is necessarily the best way to go about fixing the problem. So essentially, then more details came out, and I think let me see if I can find something real quick on the interwebs that'll help. Cain Velasquez. What happened to Cain Velasquez? Yeah. So, former UFC heavyweight champion Cain Velasquez. I can't see my screen because why would I want to do that? Denied bail in an attempted murder case. And when he was denied bail, a lot of people were like, but wait, you're going to let some pedophile out roaming the street and Cain Velasquez is denied bail? Yeah, because the concept of why you're being denied bail is really about whether or not you're a threat to reoffend. And I think this is the case here. So, former UFC heavyweight champion Cain Velasquez was denied bail Monday in his attempted murder case. Judge Shalina Brown of Santa Clara County Superior Court said the risk is too great to let Velasquez out on bail because of the extreme recklessness of the retired fighter's actions. Velasquez's next court date is April 12th, per Holly Baird, head of communications for Velasquez, Garajos, and Garajos' legal team. Velasquez cannot request bail again unless the district attorney adds or drops charges, per Baird. It is clear to this court that there is a clear and convincing evidence that there is a substantial likelihood that release would result in great bodily injury, not just to the named complaining witnesses in this case, but to Santa Clara residents at large, Brown said. This case involves allegations of extreme recklessness to human life. Velasquez, 39, was arrested after allegedly chasing down the man, Harry Eugene Goularte, who was being charged with molesting a young relative of Velasquez, and shooting a gun into the Goularte's vehicle, per the Santa Clara County District Attorney. Another man in the vehicle, Goularte's stepfather, Paul Bender, was hit by one of the gunshots in his arm and torso. Bender suffered non-life-threatening injuries. Oh, my bad. I thought it was... Again, I'm learning. I thought it was actually murder and that he had killed the stepfather. My bad. I were wrong there. Essentially, what we're at is we've got a former MMA heavyweight champion who took a gun, saw a guy who is being charged with having sexually assaulted someone who was believed to be in Velasquez's family, and Velasquez did the take the law into their own hands thing and shot into the car, injuring the stepfather, but not killing. Certainly trying to do a murder, but failing. And so I think it's important to understand that, like, it's good that the system is here. These are the frustrating things where we feel a certain way and we go, I want the world to be different. I want the person to be punished. And we have this idea that there is no possible rehabilitation for sexual offenders, and that if you are a sexual predator, you will harm again. And there's good reason to believe that. Like, I come to this from a very different place than a lot of people. I lived with a woman for many years who was still my best friend, but at the time we were even more. And she grew up in the shadow of a violent attack that had happened. Like most women, she has also had her share of really not awesome experiences. But in this particular case, when she was, I think, around 3 or 4, her cousin Kimmy, who was at the time 5 or 6, was picked up by a fellow in the downtown, or not downtown, in the South Calgary area. A fellow who had been actively engaged in sexual violence against a variety of people many times, had never been caught. And he took Kimmy to his house, and he did. He had intended to molest her, and then realized that she knew where he lived, and was like, "Oh shit!" So, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he did not molest her. He instead killed her, and then dumped her body. So this was the childhood my friend grew up in, and we obviously spoke a great deal about this rather horrendous experience, and the brutality of what that does to those around, all that kind of stuff, like to the family and things. So I do have a very soft spot for the idea of retribution in a situation like this, from the idea that we need to do something to stop this evil, vile man. And I agree. And he was arrested, and I felt very frustrated because, he got arrested and went to jail, and now, we's old, and time has marched on, and he's no longer in jail. At least when last I heard, they had moved him into a halfway house for the purposes of his, slowly re-entering society. It had been like, I think he served 25 years or something, like, so it had been a while. And while in the halfway house, he was found to be in possession of child porn material, or well, they didn't specifically say, but they said, DVDs containing content that he was specifically barred from enjoying by the courts in conditions of his parole. So one can assume it is something along the lines of child pornography or whatever. That did not revoke his parole. It did not result in new charges. And as I understand the world, he is now out in the community doing community things. There is a part of me that would love to see retribution enacted. There is a part of me that says this man was not rehabilitated by the system, potentially could not be rehabilitated by the system, and it would have been better to just kill him. That is a part of me that is very human, but it is a part of me that is very wrong. Yes, I am Canadian. Welcome, my friend. 2 wrongs don't make a right. So often they do not, unfortunately. It would be a lot easier in the world if that were the case, because we could just go, aha, there are 2 wrongs, therefore, justice. But unfortunately, it's a little more complicated than that. The truth is, my policy and my perspective on this is probably not a very popular one, and that is that I think the part of the reason that we cannot rehabilitate these people is because we have approached this from the perspective of their damage is impossible to fix, and we sort of have thrown up our hands as a community and said, yeah, done, just go to jail, just take them out of the situation, which I 100% support. Removing them from the ability to cause further harm, definitely good. The system doesn't do rehabilitation though, Jim. I know, but the system fucking should, because this is where it comes down to the question of what is the purpose of our penal system. If it is simply to punish, then okay. I mean, if that's the world we live in, I'm okay with that, and I will accept that that is the answer. If the purpose of the system is to rehabilitate, which I think is a lot better, that is a positive, because then you are doing a hopefully a net positive in the long term. And then there's the concept of it being, we require justice, which would have involved him being murdered, as some kind of way to pay the family back for the fact that their child was murdered. And unfortunately, my personal take is that's not how the world is. But people can disagree. Punish, not rehabilitate. And to me, I look, my personal take on it is this: I think that the prison system should be to protect society. I am not a fan of prisons. I am certainly not a fan of prisons for nonviolent offenders. And I think that we are far too quick to try to put someone in jail and throw away the key, especially for things like drug offenses that are frankly quite stupid. Damaged people, are they worth the trouble? Well, I think they are, and I'll explain why. In my opinion, I believe that they are a fountain of opportunity for understanding brains that diverge from what we would consider normal. I personally believe, and it's a theory that I think is not an uncommon one, but one that I can't point to studies. But I believe that people who are like this, there are causes, and some of them are physical causes, some of them are environmental causes and experiential causes. So, for example, I read a fantastic book about neuroplasticity, because I am a nerd, and that is what nerds do. And the book on neuroplasticity was talking about a particular incident where there was this dude, and dude had, he came home from work one day and was like, "Hey, I have a headache. Oh, and also, look at all the wonderful child porn I've brought home. I'm going to go read it now." And his wife and kids were like, "Qu'est-ce que fuck? What in the shit is happening?" And he was completely unabashed. Like, "Yeah, I like this now. This is who I am. I'm just going to read some kiddie porn. I hope you don't mind if I read some kiddie porn." Not hiding it, not nothing. And these headaches continued to grow. And of course, obviously, I'm bringing up the headaches for a reason. There was a correlation. They did some, because the headaches were intense, they ended up doing some evaluations and CAT scans and stuff, and found that he had a small niggle-sized tumor. I think it was niggle-sized tumor on a part of his brain. They cut it out, and suddenly he was not into that kiddie porn anymore, and was grossly, morbidly embarrassed at the fact that this had been a thing that he had done. But it's an interesting thing to think that there could be like legitimate physiological causes of these kinds of things, which fits my worldview, because I do believe that we are essentially biomechanical computers that have, in some cases, we have damage or flaws in our wiring that cause us to be problematic with behaviors like pedophilia. I don't feel like that's just the way Jesus made a person. I feel like our computers are broken, and we should understand them enough to be able to fix them. Whether that is through talk therapy, which I don't think has been traditionally very successful on the subject, or if it's through whether it's neuroscientific surgery or drug therapy or whatever. Like, if there's ways that we can find the root cause and address it, and potentially see it coming before it happens in other cases, then I would call that a net good. And that's why I say it is worth the trouble, because we won't understand it if we keep ignoring or killing the people who are doing this behavior. We only understand the behavior if we can study it. Something's got to change, because we're not getting any better. And the other thing that I would say is I want to see a change in the system, so that if you are, I don't know what American law is like, but if you're Canadian, and you are convicted of certain crimes, they can basically petition to have you listed as, what is the term? I think they call it the dangerous offender status, where your sentencing gets changed to at the Queen's leisure. Now, obviously, the Queen doesn't preside over these things, but the idea being that if this is the kind of crime that you are guilty of, and you serve your crime, and you are still considered to be too dangerous to let out, then you just don't get fucking let out. I don't know why this isn't a thing that we do all the time with people who are serial sexual predators or prolifically violent. You know, the people every time they're like, yeah, we've got a person we're letting out of jail. We're really sure they're going to reoffend. So, you know, heads up. That's like, fuck. It what? Why would you let them out of jail then if there's been no rehabilitation and there's been no, and it's just been someone like biding their time till they can offend again? Fucking don't let them out. Brand them as a dangerous offender until it takes. First off, I want to say thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed, please like and subscribe. It really does help me out. Thank you to my patrons that support me on Patreon. I am a little streamer, and these people are all really awesome for supporting me. I try to put up stuff at least once a week, and I live stream every Saturday at noon Mountain Time on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, like an old man. Again, thanks for watching, and have a kick-ass day.